Welcome to another episode of Mindful City, Tuning into Life, a podcast that brings you an intimate exploration of the businesses, practitioners, and artists making an impact in our community. Join us on Patreon for an exploration of all the people, places, and things that raise consciousness in our community by telling us about the businesses and happenings you'd like to know more about, and we'll explore them for you. Welcome to another episode of Mindful Cities Tuning into Life. I'm your host, Helen Blacker, and today I'm stepping in also for our co-host, Heather Grützmacher, who is actually the one who introduced me to Rod and Joshua from the CFVWW Worldwide organization. And so thank you, Heather. I'm sorry she couldn't be with us today. Rod and Joshua, I'd like to welcome you to Mindful Cities Tuning into Life.
Thank you.
I'm not very good at doing bios or reading off anyone's history because I love when we get to just dive in and talk about it yourself and that you are really the one that can share truly from the heart your own story. And when Heather introduced me to CFVWW Worldwide, I have to admit that I had never heard of a cystic fibrosis vest in my entire life. I've never heard of it before. I had to look it up. So I'm thinking to myself, I'm normally a very curious person. And if I haven't come across it, it's a possibility that some of our listeners may not have heard about this at all. Could you share a little bit, what is, cystic fibrosis vest? And we could probably dive in a little bit about cystic fibrosis as well. And your organization. Rod, did you want to start out?
Sure. Yeah, thank you, first of all, for having us. Cystic fibrosis vest is basically, well, I guess to start, cystic fibrosis is a genetic disease, and the danger of it is patients consist of the lungs consist of sticky mucus, and mucus we can't cough up. In turn, that leads to lung damage and eventual death. So what in the past, before this cystic fibrosis vest, our parents and doctors would just have to pound on our chest with the hands very heavily so as to loosen the mucus up and allow us to cough it up. But when this vest came along, it's basically a vest is just an oxygen, just a machine that just pulsates oxygen out. Its hoses hook up to an actual vest, a fabric vest, hook it onto yourself. And it mimics the pulsating energy. The pulsating air mimics hand percussion. So it loosens the mucus out from the lungs, and we can cough it up. So these vests, I think these vests became ordinary back in maybe the 1990s, and they've gotten better since. But our purpose is these vests cost about maybe $18,000 to $20,000.
Oh my goodness.
Each one. And in the U.S., most patients have insurance, so they cover the $18,000 to $20,000. But in the countries where we serve developing countries, third world countries. There's no insurance, and there's no way these countries, such as patients in India, Brazil, Kosovo, they can afford these.
Can afford that, exactly.
So what we do, we donate these vests all across the world. We've donated 367 of these $20,000 machines to CF patients in 61 countries. That's what Josh and I do.
That's incredible. I can only imagine just cystic fibrosis itself, like the process of living with that. That's a function that we take for granted, that our body's able to move mucus within. That's not something I would have thought of, right? That you think your body can naturally do that. And that's something that it's unable to do. Do you have experience with cystic fibrosis yourself? Is that how you were introduced to the vest?
Yeah, I do. I have CF. I'm 52 years old. In August of 2017, I had a double lung and liver transplant. So with that, so that's my experience with CF. To kind of start on how we began CFVWW Worldwide, in January 2020, I received a message from a girl. I had no idea who she was. She was in Chile. She asked me if I had CF. I told her I did. She asked me if I was in the U.S. I told her I was. She asked me, "Can you get me a vest?" And I thought, first of all, I don't know who you are. Who are you? How'd you find me? And
Mm.
why would anybody give you a vest? These things cost
I
$20,000.
know when you told me that's an incredible
Yes.
price. Yes.
So
Mm.
why would it give you a vest? That's just stupid. No one does that. So I kind of waited for a few days. I thought she was a fraud. I thought she was going to sell the vest. I thought, what
Mm.
the heck? I'm not using mine anymore. I had the transplant. I'll just give it to her. I'll let her sell it and do whatever she wants with it. So I transported it to Chile, and I thought that was that. About a month later, I got a message from someone else. No idea who he was. Just out of the blue, he asked me if I had CF. I told him I did. He asked me if I was from the US. I told him I was. He asked me, could you give me a vest? I thought, first of all, again, who are you? And why are you asking me for a vest? How'd you find me? And it's such a dumb idea. Who gives vests away? That's so stupid. But I thought, well, I gave my vest away to Valerie in Chile. So I didn't have a vest. I went off. So I
Mm.
went on Facebook. I said, well, I put out there, can somebody give Muhammad in Lebanon a vest? I thought there's no one's going to do this because no one gives vests away. These are expensive. But I just gave it a shot. A day or two later, a girl, Danny from Ohio, responded saying, I can give Muhammad a vest. So I facilitated the vest from Danny in Ohio to Muhammad in Lebanon. And I thought, well, this can't be just coincidence. There must be something about it.
Mm.
Here we are 5.5 years later. We've given away 367 vests to 61 countries.
Yeah, facilitating that, transfer as well and helping because, you have one sitting there. You don't even know what it could mean for someone else. So Joshua, how did you come into connection with Rod and what is your story in terms of cystic fibrosis and the vest? Oh, Joshua, you're on mute.
It's a good idea to mute it unless you forget. But yeah, so as I was saying, I guess my wife and I came to Thailand in about 2012. Met my wife in 2019. We had a child, and she was born with cystic fibrosis. But cystic fibrosis is a white person disease. And so the doctors were just over and over, consistently saying she doesn't need to get tested for cystic fibrosis. She doesn't have it. Um, she's not fully white. So there's no way that she'll have cystic fibrosis. And so we struggled trying to figure out what was wrong. And when she was a year and a half old, she'd almost died a few times.
Oh
And,
my goodness.
cause we had no idea what was wrong with her.
And they ruled
Finally I
that out in
decided,
a way.
yeah, and I decided I wasn't going to listen to them. They're like, you're wasting your money. And so I went down. There's only one place to test in Thailand. And so we went down there. We got her tested and I just slammed my fists on the desk. And this doctor had never even met me before. And I was like, I was right. And
Mm.
then they told us that we needed to prepare, our daughter was 1.5, 2 years old when we really figured out like what it was going to take to keep her alive. And the doctor told us you should just prepare her for a lung transplant.
Mm.
And, and one thing that I forgot to mention is I was just like you, for a long time where I didn't even know
Mm.
what's this. It was just a long word that I never had any experience with.
Mm-hmm.
And, like leukemia or something, it's like, I have no idea what exactly it does because I've
Right.
never met anybody with it. And, then, I was, the pastor of a church and I've only done one funeral in my whole life. And I did the funeral of a girl with cystic fibrosis who died
Mm.
at 21. And, then my daughter was born and I found out that she had cystic fibrosis. And, so immediately my mind goes to, well, I gotta become a scientist. I have to know this disease better than anybody. And, so I started learning about it and, the doctor said we need to prepare for a lung transplant. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. And not even realizing what a lung transplant meant. Because like you meet people like Rod and, Rod looks completely fine. And
Mm.
looks like,
Yeah,
but
it's not a
Rod's the exception.
visible disease at
Yeah.
all.
I mean, he's the exception to the rule with lung transplants, because he's lived 8 years. And when I met Rod, he was pretty new to it. And,
Mm-hmm.
I said, well, what's the life expectancy? And, he told me it's 5 years. And I was
That's
just like,
after a transplant?
Yeah, just the lungs. And I don't even know what the liver does into that. And when you get a lung transplant, your life expectancy is only 5 years, and it's only a 50% chance that you live after a lung transplant. And then living 5 years is another 50%. And so it's like a 25% chance, that you have a full life. And Rod, Rod's doing amazing. But he was the one who actually told me that information. Cause the doctor's telling me to get a lung transplant, to get her ready for it. And when I learned that, I was like, there's no way I'm doing that. Like, she's 2 years old, and so I just started fighting every way I could to figure out how to stop it. I met Rod that way. And, so I saw he was doing this best stuff, and I was like, man, give me some work. I want to work.
Get it out there.
Give me something to do.
Yeah.
And, so my wife and I, we kind of live a life of service. We have an orphanage, in Thailand. We don't really call it an orphanage, but we take kids from hard places.
A home. Maybe it's a home for them in a way.
Yeah. And we bring them into our family. And so we've had over 35 kids. We send them to college and everything. We have college grads. We just have a bunch of kids, and that's what our life is. And then we had our own kid, and she was born with cystic fibrosis. And so it was, and then we saw the struggle that we had in the third world or a developing country trying to get help. And there's so much available in the States that isn't available here. And I said, we need to do everything we can for them. And so I got everything that I could get for everybody in Thailand. And then we had to go back to the States, and just miracle after miracle, to keep my daughter alive. Really unbelievable. And, we got her on a drug that wasn't approved for her age group. And it was a miracle drug that came out, that it got approved, for 12 years and up, the year that she was born. But she was still too young until last year to take it. And, but by miracles, we were able to get her on this drug at, I think 2.5 years old. And she went from 9 hospital stays of, 2 weeks or more in 2 years to no hospital in 4 years.
Oh, so, that's incredible.
Yeah. That's so incredible. And when we were able to get all this stuff, my wife and I, our mind just goes back to, how can we help more people? How can we do this for other people? And so we met Rod, and he was the perfect guy to run into, because he was already doing it. And a new guy who knows nothing about the disease. I'm just like coming into it like dazed and confused and like depressed and like, what do I do? And Rod just pointed me in the right direction. And so we just started utilizing our networks to get this thing going. And, 63
keep
countries,
expanding and
300
keep bringing support in and trying to get these to the right people. So, Rod, a question to you. How, what are the chances of someone getting a lung transplant? Because that in itself is a miracle even. We're looking at how do you even, get to that part, and how to sustain someone. What are the options that we have for someone with cystic fibrosis? I'm sure you've gone down the line of all the things that you could possibly do. What are our options?
I guess, they have, back when I had my transplant in 2017, the medications weren't as advanced as they are now. So I didn't really have a choice. But now they have, a medication called Trikafta. It's a game changer for those with CF. Assuming you have the right mutations, which about 90% of people in the US have, it's kind of like, it's not really a cure for CF, but it kind of is. Like, that's what Josh's daughter is on. So that's our option in the US. But overseas, it's those people who service with VEST, Trikafta is an option, because the mutation that Trikafta treats is generally not with CF patients who live outside the US. They have a different mutation. So Trikafta is worthless to them. Just so happens that Josh's daughter has that genetic mutation that fits Trikafta, but that's why these vests are so important for us to get out, because without these vests, these kids have nothing. The life expectancy is maybe 12, maybe 20, 25 at the very most. I think 25 is even a large is too long.
And
Like
it's mostly in young children, is it? It's not something that develops more like later on in life. Is this experience more in young children?
we're born with it. So yeah, it
Mm-hmm.
starts with children, and throughout history, we don't live that long. I mean, it was known, they can trace CF back to the 1400s, and kids just didn't live very long because, of course, 1400s.
They didn't know what it was at that point.
And even now, in these countries, these developing countries, some still don't even know about CF. They think it's asthma or something, so there's no way they can be treated.
Yeah, I was sharing with you. I mean, I come from a very small country. I was born in South America, in a very small place, Suriname, and I never heard of that. And I've been living in the United States for over 20 years. I've heard of cystic fibrosis a little bit in the sense that I was doing some herbal medicine studies, and in there it was mentioned. And that was just within the last 3-4 years that I found out a little bit, and not even in much detail. And that's because I went to study, right? So, and then, so it's kind of interesting that I've heard it, and I kept looking. I'm like, I'm not quite sure I understand how this works. And then getting in touch with Heather, and when she mentioned the vest, I'm like, there's something there that can help someone to navigate living with this. And that's why immediately when she mentioned what you're doing, so we have to talk. How can we support you? What can we as a community do, for both of you to bring more awareness? I mean, one is we're talking about it, so I'm thankful for that. But what can we do as a community to support that and help you make these connections, either getting vests over or getting vests from those who are no longer using it over to those that can save their life. How can we support both of you? And, each of you can share.
Okay, you want to start, Josh?
Yeah, sure. Really, what we need is we need the money to do it. We run a pretty tight ship, and we've been able to do a lot on the budget that we have. But shipping vests all over the world takes a lot of money, and anybody can go onto CFVWW.org, visit our website, take a look at the work and the testimonials and everything that we're doing. And if they feel impressed to give, there's an option to donate right there. And, that's the best way that anyone can help, because we know what our mission is and we know what we're doing, and we have 5 years of experience doing it. And so we're really the best guys to do it. But if people don't have that, or if they have cystic fibrosis, or they have one of these vests, we can always take these vests and give them to somebody who really needs it. Because I have the experience of living in one of the countries that we're serving, and needing the vest, and what it feels like to not have a vest, or, any like basic medication basically is not available here. And it's very depressing and it's hopeless. And as a parent who has a child with cystic fibrosis, you reach out everywhere. And if you don't have any money, then your child is doomed to die. And, you asked earlier about, is it mainly a childhood disease? And yeah, it is, because nobody makes it to adulthood.
Yes, exactly.
And, in the U.S., the life expectancy has gone past 60 years old now. And
because of
in
medicine
Thailand,
and, medical
and in Thailand,
facilities.
It's not even 15.
Yeah.
And we're socialized medicine and all that stuff. And, so they don't even make it to 15 because nothing is available.
And it's really heartbreaking to think that there's something out there that can help you. You just don't have access to it. That's the heartbreaking part about, because there is a technology that can help, but you can't get to it.
And then even if they can get to it, like what I was saying, in cystic fibrosis, there's over 2,500 different mutations.
Mm.
And if you don't have the main mutation that is mainly found in only white people, which is why it's called a white person disease, then you can't be helped at all.
Mm.
You know, the everything that they give you is like a Band-Aid, and a
Yeah.
Band-Aid can only save your life from infection. You know, that's it.
Mm.
And that's what we have to deal with. And we are in what we do. People reach out to us that we want to help, that we can't help. And we get an email or we get a phone call that says, I couldn't get help and my child died.
Yeah.
And how do you not take that personally? You know,
Mm-hmm.
how do you not, it really lights a fire in you to get the mission done and to help as many people as you can. But we're limited by our budget, because we don't have unlimited funds, and, it's really hard, and it's not as rewarding as you think when you get
Yeah.
those emails and you get that stuff. So, the one way that we really do need help is monetarily so that we can afford to get these around the world.
Get it out there. You have the system figured out. You just need the
Mm-hmm.
funds and those resources to get the system working optimally. So,
Yep.
yeah.
And we've gotten over 360 in 63 different countries in 5 years. And we're very proud of that number. And, we want both of them to be higher. So
Yes,
any help that
exactly.
we can get, you're going to be a blessing to somebody out there for sure.
Yes. Rod, what are your thoughts and how can we support you and what would you like to share with our community and best getting these vests worldwide?
Josh said it way better than I could have said it. Yeah, that's how you can get money to us. Do we need the funds? Because we receive maybe 5 to 10 emails, calls from people all over the world a week saying our daughter, our child is dying. We have no help. Please get us a vest. And if 5 to 10 people contact us a week, we can help maybe because of funding, maybe one.
Yeah.
So we're losing 4 to 9 kids a week from getting a vest. I mean, we have a bunch of vests in our warehouse, as we call them, but we can't move them. We just don't have the funds, and kids are dying because of it. They look to us. We do our best, but we don't have the resources. So, like Josh said, we just need funds, and that's gonna get a mission. I mean, we've given 367 vests. We know we can give literally hundreds, even thousands more, but we just need the funds to do that.
Mm-hmm. You just want to get to a place where you don't have to say, no, I can't. That's it. We're just to a place where that's not an option,
That's
Hard
a
to say
dream.
no,
That's
but
a
we don't
dream.
have any choice.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it takes an incredible, just psyche and heart for you all to be able to receive these requests and be able to see the stories, and especially when you weren't able to help, and to hear that would make a person want to give up, right? That would make anybody want to just throw in the towel. So, but you keep going, because you're keeping in mind, okay, I helped one and it's keeping you going. But thank you also for continuing to have these conversations, your willingness to continue to bring this information out, knowing that you can get that up to a place where you can say yes to everyone and see that transpire. And I hope that we can assist you, in whatever way that we can by bringing this information to everyone, giving your information. We'll post also the website and where they can go. And then just personally, I'll definitely connect with both of you, afterwards if there's anything that I can personally do to help you get this mission moving. So thank you so much for joining us. And I know you have a lot on your plate, both of you. And thanks for taking the time to share with us.
Gosh, thank you. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Helen, for everything and just using your platform to help inform people about what we do and cystic fibrosis and just trying to get it out there. So we really appreciate it. Thank you for having us.
To get in touch with Rod and Josh and to find out more about how cystic fibrosis vests are changing lives one vest at a time, visit them at CFVWW.org and on Instagram at CFVWW.